Good afternoon. Gonna do some continuation on the book on narcissism, the dreaded narcissism. So yesterday I talked about my sister, as mentioned several times in the past, that the negative energy sometimes it caused for cancer. My father himself and his spirit manifested itself in my bladder cancer that I had removed last year and I got over. So daddy gone. But that is a really good analogy, and I always very much agree to it. I would say it's more akin to everything that happened and just the negative energy that I kept pent up inside because of everything that I went through. My father had a very large effect on me. And my sister. Totally different than my mother's effect on us. Let's say. So I thought I would get into a little more of the meat. When I first wrote this from the viewpoint of your son, me, written as a personal correspondence to my parents. Hopefully they would read it. That was the thought in my mind, the idealistic thing that I always held on to with mom and dad, that everything was going to be okay, and as long as I was a good son, then everything would be okay, and I held on to that, and it just never came to fruition, unfortunately. So, I have observed from the outside some things that have transpired over the last 3.5 years that I've been away. This was 3.5. I had already been total. I was away for 8 total, so this was 3.5 years into it, around 2010. 3.5 years I've been away. After extensively working on myself to grow into a better person, I feel it's time to shed some light on specific topics involving this family problem that we have all experienced for so many years. Everybody is very much involved in it and knows exactly what's going on. That was the irony, and not the irony, but the comedy when it came to me dealing with my parents. It was like they just acted like they had no fucking idea that we had any problems at all. This is for my own final healing, nothing more, nothing less. The following will simply be the truth. To the best of my knowledge, I will try to my hardest to stay as mature and respectful as I would with anyone that I come into contact with. Some of it may and will hurt, but it will not be intended to elicit anything other than truth and clarity, a way to see into my mind. It will not be filled with attempts to prove you both what I've accomplished since I left. I no longer feel I need to prove anything to anyone but myself. I'm well aware of what I have done with this time and hold my accomplishments dear. They have made me the person I am today. It occurred to me momentarily not to write this at all for fear that the truth would hurt someone. I'm not in the business of intentionally hurting people. Then I realized that I am no longer a people pleaser, constantly going against my nature to avoid speaking my mind. I am now concerned with giving myself proper attention and action, of which is long overdue. My parents taught me through conditioning, through many, many years, how to behave a certain way or to compensate for them. And it just was like a puppet. Basically, if you just say the yes man, yes woman, if just yes to everything, no matter how you felt about it or what you want to do, you were always on point, you were always on call, you're always right there to be abused. So, a lot of these paragraphs ended up, I was very careful with them because I didn't want to come off like a child. This is what the funny thing about it is. You come off, when you do something like this, since you've been trying to come off as when you were a child, when I first probably told them to lay off my shit, and they never did, I just kept doing it methodically over the years. So you always have to do this, and a lot of you will probably agree with this. You have to kind of reestablish yourself because these types of parents are just, toxic parents of every kind are just like, you really, for all these years, I'm 48 years old, I should have beat my head against the wall or beat it with a blunt object. That would have been better. So, stand up to them, but I didn't want to be any disrespectful because I want to make sure, since they were so disrespectful to me, I learned how to be a decent and moral person because of watching them fuck up. So I told myself when I got into this that I was going to keep doing that. So, you both could approach this correspondence with the maturity and respect that it deserves, or will do no good for anyone. You will have to understand if I do not trust that you will do that. This has been the case with the majority of preceding issues in our relationship. With each instance, I will try to provide a specific example to aid in the clarity, exemplifying my exact thought patterns, and reveal the way particular situations transpire. I'm always open to interpretation. Will always promote healthy debate. I'm not an irrational person. I hoped you both would know that, but it becomes increasingly clear over time that you either never took the time to know who I am, or maybe you simply don't care. I do care, and that's the reason I like this. I write this. So, once again, just going to sum up my parents' life around my parents in a nutshell, and that's it. It's just like, I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. I'm a father, and I cannot relate to talking to my son this way, but after doing it for a while, like I said, they're becoming increasingly clear. It's like I've told you, I've done this a million times, and I think I'm starting to understand. And my parents always, when I said something like that, they would just get so mad. And the more you look into narcissism, the more that you realize that's a lot of the core of it, that narcissistic rage. And really, unfortunately for us, there's a bit of understanding that we have to get when we approach people like this too. If we want to call ourselves sane, which I do not call myself sane, you don't have to be sane to do this. To approach other people in a sane manner. I know that sounds kind of odd, but it's human tricks. It's how we act when we meet someone. It's how we act with a family member. It's morality. It's everything that you talk about when you're talking good about yourself, but you actually do it. I try to do that. Best thing we can do is try, and then we'll succeed most of the time, or some of the time, and then everything is just going to probably end up better. But it seems like we all just don't try most of the time. I needed these past years of myself to finally define myself as a grown man and human being that I am, the one I never thought I was. I effectively used this time to begin repairing a somewhat broken relationship with my wife, to become a father that I always knew I could be. I was that father before, of course, but I never had the time to realize it. I was still trying to be a good son to you at great lengths and live up to requirements made by you that in the end were impossible to accomplish. This time was also used to finally convince myself that I was not the failure that I thought I was. The failure was systematically taught by you both, and this is very, very true with me. I would look in the mirror. I'm sitting here looking right now at this camera, and it's a little different with the camera, but get up in the mirror every day and look at yourself and go, you were a worthless piece of shit, Dan. You're never going to amount to anything. That was my motto. That was my mantra. And I didn't give myself that mantra. My father actually gave me that one verbatim. My mother just did it because she's manipulative. But, this paragraph would be another thing with me standing up for myself, and, I guess in the mind's eye, you end up looking at that and say, okay, I'm going to be empowered by this. I'm going to be strong by this. So I am going to stand up to them. So I'm sure a few other of these paragraphs are going to end up being a little bit more stand up. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one out soon, but we'll check out the first of episode 3 here. I obtained this entirely negative self-image primarily from my father, which I even just said. How ironic it was that I said that. So. We'll start on the next thing tomorrow. We'll pick a paragraph. We'll look for some stuff. Until then, be happy and, find ways to be happy and enjoy the rest of your day.